We've lined up the top stars from Hollywood and from all over the world to entertain you on a giant screen with a few colorful motion pictures you've been hearing about and reading
It's
about.
showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
We're delighted to have you with us. They're driving theater.
You'll find something to please you to add to your evening's enjoyment.
Is pleased to bring you our Fifi feature presentation.
What up, everybody? It is another Monday night. It is March 14th, 2022, and you've tuned into the Drive-In Speaker Box. We're going to be talking to you about movies. We're going to be talking about Hollywood stuff, news, obituaries, trailers, reviews, and all that kind of stuff. I'm always your host, Bo, the boom operator.
And I am Slick Doggy the Grip.
And shout-outs. We got another resub there from...
Thanks, Vince.
Was that Vince? Yeah, thanks, man. But yeah, if you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, wherever you subscribe to podcasts, be it Spotify or Tuned In or whatever, you can always watch the live stream. You can check us out on our Facebook or Twitch or our YouTube, where we record this live every Monday night, Central Standard Time, and you can get along in the chat with everybody that's already in there. Shout-outs to Sam, shout-outs to Tony over on YouTube, and Vince over on Twitch, already tuned in the chat right there. So thanks for joining us. I just saw in the chat, Sam says R.i.p. Scott Hall. Did Scott Hall die?
Yeah, it was announced earlier that he was going to be taken off of life support. He had multiple heart attacks following a surgery where a blood clot got loose and was on life support. And Kevin Nash had posted about how they were going to take him off once his family arrived.
Razor
for
Ramon.
them to do that. So, yep, the bad guy,
Mr. Toothpick,
passed away today.
You know, I know you've heard this story. I don't know if the viewers or listeners have heard this story, but the time that I had breakfast at like 3 a.m. with the NWO at a Waffle House, it was pretty wild. I was with my uncle at the time, and we were at Pleasure Island, which is like, I don't know if it's still there. It probably is, like one of those Disney sort of nightclub portions, like Disney World for grown-ups that drink alcohol. And I was like 18, so I could only do so much stuff. You know, I was kind of sitting outside while my uncle was doing the fun things. And anyway, at the end of the night, we were going back to where we were staying, and it was way outside of town because we couldn't afford to stay close to the park. And we're like, oh yeah, let's stop at this Waffle House, and the glass was all fogged up, you know. And we walk in, and the only people that were in there was the NWO, and we're talking like Buff Bagwell, we're talking Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash, like all of them that were in there being straight up douchebags to the short order cook too. And who's the really, really, really big guy? Scott Norton. You're the wrestling guy.
I don't know.
Anyway, he had like just plates of bacon, plates of eggs, plates of pancakes, all just for him. He was sitting at a table by himself because he had so many plates. They were all spread out because they, ate so much. It was pretty weird. And we were the only ones in there with him. And we didn't want to be like those guys. Really, can we get your autograph, sir? But
you should have at least like Wolfpacked it up or something.
Yeah, well, it was weird. It was a weird time. It was fun. I mean, we did chat with them obviously because we're the only other people that weren't wrestlers in the place. but yeah, weird times. But also speaking of people that we lost, like I don't know if you guys heard about William Hurt. Mm-hmm. William Hurt, man, this guy. Wow, I was not expecting that one. I mean, 71, he was getting on up there. But just talk about a dude that has been in literally everything. Like, everything.
He's in tons of MCU movies. I think he's probably been in as many MCU movies as Robert Downey Jr., if not more, because he was Thunderbolt Ross there from the Incredible Hulk forward. Replacing Sam Elliott, who is in hot water right now, seems like. But yeah, that's probably where a lot of people have seen him. He didn't look bad, like in Black Widow, like anything was wrong. But I guess it was a couple of years old now. more than most movies.
Tyler says William Hurt was his favorite Duke Leto growing up. William Hurt's been in so many just iconic roles. I really liked him in Dark City. And a lot of people remember him from Lost in Space. That was a big Hollywood.
I remember him as Dr. Robinson in Lost in Space. Yeah,
he has just been in all of these movies. An amazing career. Played in all sorts of. He's always kind of a hard ass. Like he plays a really good hard ass. But wow, William Hurt. He's just. You always know he's going to be a stickler for details. Like when this guy, you're like, all right, he's not going to let anybody slip past him. No funny business on William Hurt's watch. But it's sad. It's sad when we lose people that have been, so impactful with their character, all the characters that they've played in all these different movies, and it just kind of makes you aware of your own mortality, I guess. And have you seen all the memes that are with not with William Hurt, but just like getting old? Like the Wilford Brimley was 50 years old when he was in Cocoon, which is the same age as like Paul Rudd now, and Tom Cruise was 56 when he was in the last like Mission Impossible. But
Will Wheaton posted like a month or two ago about how he was on his birthday. He was the same age as Patrick Stewart was while they were filming Next Gen, and you look at Patrick Stewart, you're like, well, that's an old dude.
Yeah.
And then friggin' Wesley Crusher.
There are some of those dudes like Walter Matthau and Patrick Stewart and
just old forever.
They've just they pop out of the womb looking old, and they're just granddads for eternity. So yeah, it's always. I'm trying to think of any other actors I can think of that just as long as I can remember, they've been old looking.
Steve Martin's had white hair since the 70s.
Well, yeah, Steve Martin's always had the white hair. Danny Trejo's always looked like life has dealt him one, like since he was
because it did. He came from prison. He
did.
He was just on set as an advisor, like Arlie Ermy, and they're like, "You want to be in the movies?"
Yeah, he was like a boxing advisor or something because he was a prison boxer. But yeah, it's some of those people they're and William Hurt kind of had this iconic look about him for most of his career too, just being like this straight-laced son of a bitch. And gonna miss old Willem Hurt. Pouring one out for you, buddy. But later in the show, we did see some movies that we're going to talk about. We both watched The Adam Project, which is the new film. It was Sundance and Netflix partnership there. Yeah. We're going to be talking about that later in the show. And I also got a chance to see Belfast. Belfast was, of course, Academy Award nominated film that Kenneth Branagh wrote, directed, produced, and it got like a small re-release. I think that they put it back out in like 500 something theaters right now because right around Oscar, after they've made all the Oscar announcements, some of these Oscar movies come back into theaters when there's not much else, and they go, oh, remember this? Like it was Academy Award nominated, and they'll do like a series. And I think AMC is always pretty good about doing like an Academy Award series. So I'll be talking about that later in the show as well. But let's jump into some news. You got any news you want to talk about? What happened? What happened the last week with Jake?
Well, with me, quite a bit, really. In fact, yesterday I traveled around, went to a local touristy hotspot, cool place, and got myself engaged.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
What, did you go to Eureka?
Yep.
Good grief.
How about it? Yep.
Yeah, like how I'm just now finding about this live on the air.
Sorry, dog.
In front of, I thought we were friends,
bro. It needed to be genuine, bro. It needed to be genuine.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I mean, congrats, I guess. Like, well, does that mean you're not going to be on the show anymore? Because you're going to be like a married dude. And you're always going to be like, sorry, bro, I got to like sweep the porch.
No, I'll still be here. I got to have like Doggy on the show. You can't not.
Yeah, I know how that goes, though. I've had friends that get married, and they're just like, no, dude, nothing's going to change at all, ever, dude. Like, we're just going to still be the same homies. It's just we won't ever see each other for the rest of eternity. And, I'm gonna be sad.
No, you know me, man. That'd be cool.
That's why you're not going to Texas Pinball Festival.
No, it's not. That's because I'm broke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's because I'm broke.
It sounds to me like if you're too broke, if you're broke enough to not be able to go TPF, marriage is expensive.
Yeah, it turns out gonna be. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody. Sam said he can sing at the wedding. So Ash, there we go. We got a wedding singer planned out. Got my boy maybe can DJ or something. But
I am an ordained minister in the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monsters.
So that is that's the changes that have been made in the script and screenplay of my life. Oh, there she is. No. Now see, she's trying to get rid of me already. So
yeah,
they're in Twitch. Afix trying to pawn me off already. But yeah, so in movies, outside of the screenplay that is my life, that took a turn on the toge of life there was a new Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer.
There was.
Which, see, that's why I had to, because she loves Star Wars.
Well, they were talking about
fun stuff and video games.
How Darth Maul was supposed to be a part of this show.
Well, because Darth Maul, they brought back in old concepts, like the Star Wars Concepts comic book, and that's where they first gave him his mechanical legs, and he came. The whole one-shot story was Darth Maul showed up on Tatooine, fought Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan killed him again. And then everyone's like, well, that's a pretty cool idea. And then 10 years later, they're like, well, let's put him in the Clone Wars cartoons. And they brought him back and everything like that. So I'm sure that it's a series. It's going to be a series.
It's
so
going to be a series, yeah.
There's plenty of room for Darth Maul to show up. And you know how Disney likes to hold on to their secrets and everything
milk
like
it
that.
for every ounce that it's worth.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's plenty of space for Darth Maul to show up and get ganked by Obi-Wan.
Just revenge of the Jedi.
But the whole thing is too, they took like they're making it line up with Jedi Lost Order, where there's all these Sith hunters that go after Jedi and stuff, and their whole thing is they're just gonna start hacking up citizens of Tatooine, and it's like Tatooine's on the outer rim. It's a planet that doesn't matter. It's not part of the Empire.
Yeah, I like how it's a planet that doesn't matter, and yet everything takes place there because it's cheap to film in the desert.
Right.
And but they're like, yo, no, Tatooine, man. Boba Fett's there, Luke Skywalker's there, Obi-Wan's there, Darth Maul's there. We're gonna go back there. Like, you remember Cantina and Jawas? We're gonna go do the thing. It's all Tatooine, baby.
Like in classic Star Wars lore, Tatooine does not matter, which is exactly why it was weird that Anakin was found there. It was no one looked for Luke there. It's the whole thing. Tatooine doesn't matter, but apparently it's just the most important planet
ever
in all of the Star Wars galaxy.
Is pod racing.
Dude, Adam says he's tired of Tatooine. Well, guess what, dude? If you're tired of Tatooine, they just gave it a different name in Episode 7, wherever Rey was from. Exactly the same planet.
They were like at Batooine and Utini, you know, and then there was Salt Hoth, and it's like
Salt Hoth was dumb.
Come on,
like
and just give us another planet like it's not full of Gungans. I'm like,
well, dude, the cool thing about Naboo was it's the only planet in all of Star Wars that has more than one biosphere to it.
Yeah,
they're like, what if there were two types of planet thing on here? And they're like, two types of environment.
Do we have the
water
budget for that?
And land. And they're like, yeah, water and land. How about that? And they're like, well, usually it's just one or the other, or maybe desert, snow, who knows? But all in all, it actually looks kind of cool compared to what I've seen of Mandalorian and Boba Fett, because I never got on the Mandalorian train like everyone else. And
Star Wars, now that's a franchise that hasn't been good since before you were born.
Nice. Yeah. Hey, fun fact, Alec Guinness hated Star Wars.
He did.
Absolutely hated it.
He was just like, I don't know. But there's interviews. You can watch the interviews that he was like, yeah, this looks like a stinker, but it also looks like it's going to make a lot of money. So I'm going to negotiate like 2.5 points on the back of this movie. And the Guinness estate became billionaires because of it. So yeah, I mean, Alec Guinness was a smart man to take that role because he knew money when he saw it. But he's like,
and then every interview he was like, Star Wars is stupid and I hate it. Doesn't make any sense. I don't know why you like it, but give me money. I guess.
And that's what happened to.
And then Harrison Ford was like, hey, I like what he's doing over there.
I want some of that, but also Star Wars is stupid.
Yeah. But he's like, kill me in the next movie or I'm not showing up. And they're like, oh, we can't do that. And he's like, I ain't
hear the sound of a check tearing, and he's like, wait a minute, all right, I can be in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get the power of that dollar though. But yeah, the Obi-Wan show, I have lost so much faith in Disney Plus Star Wars related content, that I'm just not even excited. I haven't even finished Mandalorian, or not Mandalorian, but Book of Boba Fett, or whatever the hell, Mandalorian Light or Proto, because it
just turns into more Mandalorian at the end of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But he's actually swinging around the darksaber or something. I don't know. I got in late.
I just how come we haven't gotten... Just do the Expanded Universe books. Just do those books that were all good, and we read them, and the Clone Wars, and the what was his name, Grand Moff Tarkin, and all these dudes that are badass, and we already know about them. We want to see them. Why we don't need the Book of Boba Fett?
I remember news came out a while back though. Hayden Christensen's supposed to come back as Darth Vader for Obi-Wan. So even though it's not in the trailers, it was in the news months and months ago, and they thought we forgot. We're gonna see Darth Vader.
We're gonna. See
is he gonna be like
Anakin Vader? We're gonna see Christian.
Well, he's gonna be in the suit though. He's going to be completely Vadered out.
I don't know. I feel like they're going to give it at least an opportunity to be memeable, because that's what I called out in the Mandalorian show, is they linger on scenes that they know are going to be memeable, like Baby Yoda scenes. They're like, oh yeah, we got to put this in because it'll go viral on the internet. And they got everyone remembers the Anakin and Padme meme, so they're like, we gotta do something. We gotta put him back in there so that we can go viral. And
are you talking to the one where it's like, you mean this, right? And he's like,
yeah, and he's just doing the look, because that's what it is, man. It's how can we make it viral? How can we get more subscribers? How can we just keep people's attention on this franchise for as long as possible? It's not necessarily about how can we tell good stories that people are going to get addicted to. They're like, how do we just keep them? How do we keep them just drinking the sauce? And they got us hooked on the sauce, the blue milk.
I was about to say, the walrus titty milk.
Ew. But yeah, that's a thing. Disney money printer, go burr. But I don't know if you heard about this. Another Alien movie looked like it's coming into the corporate IP machine, getting cranked out. But this time it's being helmed by Fede Alvarez from Don't Breathe and the Evil Dead remake fame. Said it's supposed to be an original standalone movie, which I think is already a oxymoron when you're doing. It's going to be an original standalone movie based on something that we've been copying and duplicating since the 70s. That's impossible. You can't make an original standalone movie from something that's already had 6 movies and several spinoffs. Anyway, it says apparently Alvarez has pitched an idea to Ridley Scott years ago, when that was back when Ridley Scott was still trying to consider you remember the Neil Blomkamp Alien, which that got canned. I think that would have been amazing, but that's definitely not happening. But 20th Century Studios, which used to be 20th Century Fox, but is now 20th Century Disney, is like, yo, dude, that's what Disney does. They're like, hey, let's do that again and again and again.
Yeah, but they've already done that with Alien. And like Sam, one of our viewers on Facebook, said, Aliens is probably the only good one. Alien is classic and good, but Aliens is action-packed and more fun, and I like it a lot better.
I think that they both exist together equally. They are both great movies in their own right.
Yeah, but Aliens is it has the Queen, and it has it
has Bill Paxton.
Over, you bitch.
Game over, man.
Yeah, it has everything cool.
Yeah.
And whenever you think Alien or Aliens is the one you're thinking of.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah, it is. Most people aren't like, oh, the one in the spaceship that was really boring.
That's the one I always think of.
Really?
Yeah.
I always think Aliens and the power loader.
It comes out of the chest. It's like, and they're like, don't touch that. Don't inspect it with your face. And everybody always inspects it with their face, with their helmets off. And they're like, oh, we shouldn't go into this room with all these life forms.
But you don't get to see the
put
true
our face on it.
The true evil of Weyland-Yutani in the first one.
Well, that's because Paul Reiser is
such a turd.
He comes in, he's like, well, I'm corporate America, and here's how this is going to work.
That's what I'm saying, man. You get the power loader, you get the flamethrower, you get the Queen, you get badass Ripley, or she's like, hand me one of them
You get
guns.
James Cameron. That's what you get.
Yeah, it's better.
No,
It's so good.
They're both. One is a horror movie. One is an action movie. That they're different, but
Well, they are. That's what I'm saying. Alien is good. Aliens is the best one. Everything after that, don't worry about it.
yeah, I'm not a It kind of falls apart after the second one. But this one's going straight to Hulu, and we're starting to see more and more of a trend of these big budget movies going straight to streaming services because the streaming wars are in full effect. They're trying to find how we're going to get these viewers connected to their stream, to their sauce. And just like the movie we're going to be reviewing later in the show, the Adam Project is a big budget. It could have been in a theater. It could have easily been in a theater. But instead Netflix is like, nah, man, we're going to throw all this money in here because we want to get people on Netflix. And I'm still trying to figure out in my mind where the how the budgets work on this. But whatever, dude. I mean, I'm not the one.
They don't release their numbers.
$10.99 a month. They must have that many.
It's going
wow.
up. Netflix is gonna be like $20 by the end of the month.
Well, all of them are gonna be like $20. Like
no, there was a big message. Is like, guess what, dude? Thanks for turning on Netflix. It's gonna be $20 in 2 weeks. And I was like, say what?
It is an arms race of inflationary proportions. Like they've got us all locked, and they're just gonna keep pushing us until we all fight back, and we can't because digital or physical media is gone. We've eliminated it, and now they're like, just like I said they would. If you go back years back in Drive-In Speaker Box history, I predicted this. It's like they're gonna make us hate physical media because of convenience.
I'm still waiting on that Lord of the Rings 4K set to go on sale cheap enough for me to get it.
They're never gonna do it.
It exists.
Like, yeah.
It goes on sale once in a while, but it's like $80. I don't have $80 to spend on Lord of the Rings that I already own extended versions of.
Nope.
One thing that's fun that I think Vince brought up, how Cameron pitched Aliens, just walked into a room, wrote Alien, and then put an S on the end, and they're like, sold.
You got it, dude.
I mean, he's James Cameron.
That's how pitching used to work. It's just like some, by the hip cowboy filmmakers, like, aliens.
Yeah, and they're like,
yeah, you got it, dude. And now they're like, the algorithms are calculating that there might be a trend online that says millennials between the ages of this and this, it's going to trend with this, and it's the Twitter sphere is saying that this particular character might resonate with
just
this
go
demographic.
full
so let's
H.R.
make this.
Geiger with it, and everyone would be like, this is sold.
We can't go H.R. Geiger because it's too phallic, and penis-headed monsters are not trending right now. In fact, I think they're making people a little upset. So if we can back off the penis-headed,
Hulu has like foreign series that have people full-blown having actual sexual intercourse on film. They can do H.R. Geiger alien stuff and make it weird and get people to run. Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
Not Disney.
So Blake on Facebook asked what our thoughts on the Halo series trailer coming on Paramount Plus is. We've talked about it before. Master Chief looks cool, but the series looks like turds because they decided to go their own story route and forego all of the comics and novels and video games. And they're like, hey, we know this is vast and rich and all of the stories there laid out for us on the perfect interactive storyboard. Mm-hmm. Screw that.
That have totally captured a fan base that's been working
for 20 years. Yeah, and they're like, forget it. No, we don't need any of it. It's just a dude in a suit, right?
What do we say? What do we say, Vince? We got to shake it up.
Yeah.
Shake it up. So. I'm expecting that emoji in any moment now. But, the shaking it up is just not...
Sam pointed out Imdb TV is free, but that's because it's owned by Amazon. And Amazon put commercials on there, and they're like, why make just money from people that subscribe when we can make money from commercials? Which even if you have a Prime account, they have the things that are like free with ads on Prime. It's like, so you pay for Prime and have to watch commercials. It's cable.
It is cable. It's all going back, guys. I told you, and I told you, and I told you. Yeah. You're like, I like it because it's convenient.
Tyler said, I don't want to see his face. Thanks. Probably in regards to Master Chief. No, dude, they're getting the full Stallone Dread treatment.
They're going to pull the helmet off.
Where the helmet comes off, and it just, the whole fan base is like, it was fine until that. Because I personally like the Stallone Dread. I get that people are upset about the helmet, but everything else about it is perfect. It has Mega City. It has the Cursed Earth. It has the ABC robot from other 2000
does have
AD.
Rob Snyder, but
Well,
we go back and forth on this. But I mean, and
it has Max von Sydow.
You can look at our upper cam. We got where's Judge Dredd? He's right there.
Yeah.
You know, I think that movie would have been an amazing Dredd if Stallone had just kept his freaking helmet on.
It is an amazing Dredd, regardless of him taking
I wonder
his
if they could
helmet
go
off.
CGI,
Just put
supercut, and
deep fake the helmet back on him.
on him for the. Okay, internet. I'm doing a call to action. To
And
the
then all they have
internet.
to do is edit out like the 4 seconds of him kissing Hershey, because that was the only other thing. They're like, no judge on judge contact, right? So they just they put the helmet on and they get rid of the kiss with Hershey
and maybe a couple of Rob Snyder jokes.
Oh, Hershey's kiss! I just thought about that.
And yeah, let's make a let's
Just
see if
CG
we can.
Rob Snyder into the real Fergie, make him the king of the big stinky. There we go. Perfect Dredd. Bring in Wobby the Wobot. Just make him Wobby the Wobot.
Yeah, that would work.
I'm the law. I'm the law.
Yeah.
I'm the law.
Sam asked if I've seen Guardians of Justice. No, I have not.
So, okay, speaking of Guardians of Justice, I tried to watch this. I picked up, this is a new series on Netflix, very much a heavy-handed borrowing of the DC universe.
It sucks that I'm going to pay $20 to have Netflix, because I haven't turned Netflix on in months until I was like, oh, the only movie coming out this week is on Netflix.
Yeah.
So,
well, the Guardians of Justice, you know, you may have seen it starring Diamond Dallas Page of all things.
color me interested.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, and he's not doing yoga for everyone.
Oh. Does he self high five?
No, he plays Batman, which is Nightbird or Nighthawk or Nightwing or not Nightwing because I can't say that.
DDP is Batman?
Yes, he
Okay.
plays a version of Batman, and this is like it's really
Smart move, Vince.
in vogue right now for there to be kind of parodies. Like, you know, now that we're comfortable with The Boys, we're comfortable with Invincible, we're comfortable. You know, The Tick's been doing it since the '80s. They started
But
it.
some reason Amazon decided not to keep the Tick, despite how much we like it.
And despite how Ben Edlund has been doing real life parody / what if this was reality style comic books since the 80s or late 80s, maybe early 90s if you want to get technical about it, like 89, 90. But anyway, you know, this is like, okay, imagine if Superman killed himself and the Justice League were, you know, suspects, and this is basically this. That was a storyline in Invincible, you know, and now they're like, okay, blah blah blah. But the problem I have with this show is, what was the kung fu movie that they made that was like a short, and then they made the movie out of it.
Kung Fury?
Kung Fury, yes, Kung Fury. So Kung Fury, you know, that was
That
like
has the super sick David Hasselhoff
but that was
song.
also 2015, and the short I think was even earlier than that, because the full length movie came out in 2015, and I think the short came out in like 2012, or I don't have notes in front of me. But you know, it was like, you think 10, 12 years ago that neon lasers and a T-Rex with the laser on it and Thor and lightning and all this, you know, crazy. It's like, how can we let's put a diaper on a robot that transforms into a building and call him like Baby Building Zilla, and you know, it's like, how dumb can we make it and zany and wacky for wacky's sake? And that tracked about 12 years ago, but I feel like that bus has left with movies like Kung Fury, and they've kind of done it, and
Kung Fury was sick.
like Triceracop, and it's like, yeah. It was sick, but
And Hacker Man,
Yeah.
who's still used in like multiple memes and commercials and stuff.
I'm not disagreeing that Kung Fury wasn't awesome, but seeing someone like 10 years later basically cut and copy the formula of Kung Fury and try and call it a fresh new experience. And that's what they're calling it. They're calling it an experience because it's like mixed media. There's some stop motion animation. There's cartoon, you know, hand-drawn animation. There's, you know, live action. It's all kind of weaved into this sort of over-the-top, you know, whatever. But it's, I don't know. It just feels very dated, and it's trying to be very fresh. and the acting is pretty weak in a way that works in Kung Fury because we saw it 10 years ago when it was fresh, and now it feels a little bit stale. I haven't made it through the whole series because part of it was a little cringe for me. I'm just like, oh gosh, DDP being like, oh, he's not the greatest actor. He's a cool dude and a great wrestler, not a fantastic actor. But I'm trying to get through it. But it's tough because I've seen DC parodies, I've seen Batman, Superman analogies, which is funny. They don't do a whole lot of that with Marvel, but there's always parodies of the Justice League. But yeah, like Sam's kind of like when Atari released the 7800 in the late 80s. It's like it feels a little late. But I'm watching it. I think you probably dig it. It's got DDP. It's got Kung Fury vibes. But I think that you might agree with me. You're like, oh, on paper this sounds pretty dope. But then when you watch it, you're just like, okay, I feel like this joke is kind of ending, and I don't know if I need to watch 9 episodes of this.
Yeah, I think Kung Fury worked. There's even parts where Kung Fury falls apart because it's just too dumb and off the wall and doesn't make a lot of sense.
Guess what? Here's laser Nazis. We resurrected the brain of Adolf Hitler and put him in a robot. It's like, dude, I've seen that
and he
a
climbs
lot.
through the TV or the phone or whatever.
And they do this in Galaxy or Guardians of Justice too.
Yeah,
it's like,
but Kung
evil.
Fury's short. It's like what, like 50 minutes or something?
Yeah, it's
like
short,
an hour or less.
Very short movie.
Super short movie.
But Kung Fury 2's coming out this year.
It's been taking them forever. That's something that they've been working on since the success of the first movie. But you got to have that Hasselhoff banger, like Last Survivor, whatever that song is.
True Survivor.
Yeah, True Survivor. That song slaps. That song is the tits.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Except for Hasselhoff, like drunk, eating a cheeseburger on the ground, yelling at his son, is not the tits. Like, that's really depressing.
No, but that has nothing to do with that song.
I mean, it has. Well, it's David Hasselhoff, and I mean, ooh, gosh, how do you go from like singing on top of the Berlin Wall when it comes down and being king of Germany because he's a super pop star, David Hasselhoff, and Baywatch, to like drunk out of his mind, eating a cheeseburger and yelling at his son. You
try having Kit and then losing him and see what that does to your life and self-esteem.
I mean, true life. But that's so far my feelings on Guardians of Justice. I will check back. I'm gonna make my way through it. I promise you, I will. But my initial reaction, like I just sat down. I was like, I had a bowl of vegetables because I'm trying to eat healthy, and I'm just like, all right, here we go, let's do it. And I don't know, it just wasn't feeling for me.
Well, you know what else was new? Something that is a lot of fun and also nostalgia. Sonic 2 got a new trailer out.
I didn't see this.
I think it was released today.
Okay, tell me about it.
So
what
you
happened?
get to see a lot more of Knuckles and Robotnik.
Okay.
You get to see more stuff that's all Sonic-y, more things about the rings and running and fighting and being Sonic and having tails. And the movie poster is a copy of the cover of Sonic 2 Genesis game, and everything about it looks to be just as good as the first one. And I'm getting more and more excited about Sonic, which is now being released April 8th.
It's coming up.
Coming up pretty quick, and I'm actually super excited about it because the first one ended up being pretty good.
It turned out being better than we thought it was going to be.
They're like, hey, this is a franchise that already has a fan base. What if we gave them things that they were into? Because the fan base was like,
they weren't.
Hey, you're really messing this up. We're not going to give you any money. And they go,
don't.
Ooh, spend money to fix this.
And don't stab us in the wallet. We need that money. We want your money. So, yeah. But speaking of new releases, let's go ahead and talk about what's coming out in theaters this weekend. There is a handful of movies coming out. Not all are going to be completely wide released throughout the entirety of the U.S., but there are a handful of movies coming out that are pretty interesting. One we've been talking about for a while from director Guy Ritchie is his new kind of return to the formulaic Guy Ritchie sort of action, super quick cut, snap, zoom, pan and scan, insanity that he does. It's Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, and it has Jason Statham, Carrie Ells, Josh Hartnett, Aubrey Plaza. Looks fun, looks silly, looks Guy Ritchie, looks like an ensemble cast.
Well, it has all what's his face? Hugh Grant as like a rough and tough dude.
Dude, Hugh Grant, say what you will about Hugh Grant, I feel like Hugh Grant pulled a Daniel Radcliffe, like in the mid 90s, late 90s, where it was, what was that movie? It was it was like a Notting Hill, I think was that movie, and it was like a romantic comedy, and he became like the end all be all of romantic comedy dudes for like a hard second. But if you go back and look at some of his early career and some of his late career, you go back to like look at movies like Lair of the White Worm, which is a super trip, and I highly recommend it on Halloween. It's a stupid ass movie, but it's a really fun watch because you're like, oh shit, that's Hugh Grant. And you go and look at movies like this where he's playing like kind of a bad guy, kind of a bit of a ruffian, if you will, a ne'er-do-well. I think he's more suited for these roles, like especially when you get older and you can't be a sexy heartthrob, kind of like Antonio Banderas in Uncharted. It's like there's a point in your life where you can't keep being the sex symbol, so you be the old sex symbol that is now evil.
Well, that was Antonio Banderas in the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard too.
Yeah, it's bad. Is a bad guy.
You're more like Gunther from Gunther and the Sunshine Girls.
No,
Ooh, you touch my tra-la-la.
Tra-la-la. No, I want a supercut. Anybody out there that wants to do it, because I don't want to do it, I want a supercut of Antonio Banderas in movies where he goes before he says something.
Oh man, that's a good half hour of Desperado.
Yeah, just
by itself, Desperado and Spy Kids.
Oh, everything. And or like an Interview with a Vampire where he touches the like flame and goes.
Now I just feel like Robert Rodriguez, whenever he's directing, Antonio Banderas is like, hey, do that thing that I like. I think that's what this scene needs. And Antonio Banderas is like, man, I don't know. I really felt that last take. I think it was good. Like my scene partner feels like it was good. And they're like, yeah, A+. I really felt that. And Robert Rodriguez is like,
throw it out.
No. Do the thing that I like.
Can you just take a deep breath real quick for me? Okay.
Yeah.
So good. But anyway, I think this is going to be fun. I mean, I don't know. It spells fun.
Opposite feels about it.
Guy Ritchie has the capability to make fun movies.
Look at his last couple of movies. What was that one that had Colin Farrell where he was like some gangster guy that beat up people in delis, and it had
Guy
like 20
Ritchie,
famous people.
After
Aladdin.
After the King Arthur movie, Guy Ritchie lost his way. Right, he got an Aladdin, like Aladdin.
The King Arthur movie was cool if it wasn't called
King Arthur.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then Guy Ritchie's just been, I think he's just been pulled away from projects that he wants to do, and I think this looks like it could be a return to form. I mean, even the original Sherlock Holmes was actually pretty damn good. The second one, not so much, and he kind of spiraled out of control. But I think I have high hopes for this. I mean. Dude, Carrie Ells is great. Josh Hartnett is great. Jason Statham is Jason Statham. And, he just one last paycheck. I'm going to do this thing one more time for you, Guy.
He said that Josh Hartnett's great. And then you're like, Jason Statham. Josh Hartnett always looks like he opened the oven and it was way too hot. And he's like, his face always looks like he's like baking cookies and he left them in. It's too hot. And he's like.
But Jason Statham, I mean, he always plays Jason Statham. He's like, I'm going to be this hard-nosed guy that's really good at this shit, right? And I'm going to do one more thing.
If it works, man, if it works.
I'm going to be in that Dungeons and Dragons movie one more time, but I'm going to have a set of skills. I'm going to do one more job. And I'm going to be in Fast and Furious doing one more job. I'm going to be in that movie about robbing banks, one more job. It's just one more job. Jason Statham. I'm going to be in that movie where my heart runs on batteries and drugs one more time. Just one more time. And then another time. And then maybe one more time after that. But this is the last job.
Yeah.
I love doing the Jason Statham voice, even though I'm not great at it. It's fun. But then that's coming out. Also, from director Ty West, you may have seen the trailer. It's just called X. It looks like kind of a 1970s slasher sexploitation film. It's a group of young filmmakers going out to this rural Texas farm where it's kind of like a don't mess with the farmer's daughter sort of tale gone wrong. And
looks creepy.
It does look really creepy. And Ty West, if you don't know Ty West, there is a list of horror movies that I really, really like that I think are just fantastic, well-made modern horror. Because a lot of modern horror, I think, either tries to rely too much on gore or too much on jump scares, or just it doesn't really elicit fear and excitement. But Ty West is responsible for one of those movies on my list, and it's The House of the Devil. If you've never seen House of the Devil, it's a 2009 movie that he directed. I mean, he also did VHS in 2012. A lot of people like that one. That's not my big favorite, but The House of the Devil is a phenomenal movie if you're into horror. And this movie, it stylistically looks good. It looks creepy. It's calling back to exploitation films of the late 70s, early 80s. It's got all the trimmings, all the fixins of what that sort of genre brought to the table back in that time period. And there is an interesting sort of hypothesis, if you will, of what makes good horror movies, and stripping things down to a time period where there's less connectivity, where there's more isolation, where like there's a reason a lot of horror movies, it's like you go into there's no cell phone, there's no electricity, there's what's going, because you need that isolation. Like, it's not as scary to be alive anymore.
I mean, that new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, though, he hops on that bus and there's like 50 people and they're like,
but it wasn't
phones.
Scary. It was funny.
That
it
was
like,
goofy.
That dude said cancels and he's gonna get sawed in 3.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was more of a comedy than it was like, oh shit, this is terrifying. But I think that this movie looks like it could be terrifying, because I mean, this is something that I also say a lot about film, and especially exploitation film, is Southern culture is like the last safe haven that we can make fun of and sort of villainize and turn into a bad guy. Like, we can make fun of a guy that lives on a farm and rapes pigs and talks like this, and I'm gonna go do all this, because it's acceptable to sort of like point our fingers as them as other in a time where it's not acceptable to say this group of people is bad, but for whatever reason, it's still acceptable to go, Southerners are dumb, they're inbred, they're racist, murder, idiot, what, and we all accept it. We're all like,
we do not all accept it, because as a Southerner, I do not.
Yeah, it's not my favorite thing either, because I
show your seals.
Yeah, show your zeals, and you can, especially like L.A. and New York. It's a weird thing. It's the last group of people we can just really just throw under the bus, and everyone's like, yeah, fuck them. And
every time you meet someone from L.A. and New York in the film industry that comes here, they're like, oh, you guys have bathrooms here?
Dude, did I ever tell you the story about one time I was working on a set, and I was A-unit sound, right? And I had a vehicle at the time that could hold several people, and they were like, "Hey, will you go pick up the crew that's flying in from LA?" It was a DP, a director, and a producer, and they're like, "Can you go pick them up from the airport and give them a ride back to their hotel?" Right? And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem, whatever." And they didn't know that I was actually on the crew anything more than just a dude that was picking them up from the airport, right? And Vince said I did tell us. Well, you've also been watching the show for years. But anyway, they were talking so much mad shit on us about like, how stupid this place was and how everyone's dumb, and they couldn't believe that their yoga session got double booked and there's no restaurants and everybody eats bad food and nobody knows how to do shit. And and then I show up on set the next day and they're like, "Ooh, God, he heard us." But the funny thing is, at the end of the story, they actually screwed up big time on set and tried to throw us Southerners under the bus. And somebody on set who is really good and took good logs was like, "Actually, no, it was these guys." And those LA people, they don't know that we're cool in the South.
Sam points out one of the biggest rednecks he's ever met's from Seattle. So yeah, they're from all over, man, not just here.
What is it? David Cross, I think, did a skit a long time ago.
He's from Alabama, right?
David Cross?
Yeah,
it could be. But he does on one of his old albums, he does a bit about the redneck voice, where it's just like, "Hey man, dang old Anchorage, Alaska, man, this is how we talk up here, man. Dang old Portland, Oregon, man, this is how we talk down here. No, man, Birmingham, Alabama, this is how we talk down here. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, this is how we talk up here." Like the redneck voices everywhere, man.
Roswell, Georgia. Yeah, I knew it was from somewhere.
But X coming out from director Ty West. That's coming out this week. And also 2 more actually 3 more I want to get. Well, I have 4 more I want to get through really quick.
Jeez, guy.
3, 4, 5 more. Because we got 15 minutes to review 2 movies, so I'm going to get through it. Uma with Sandra Oh looks pretty cool, kind of a K-horror style.
Yeah, it looks creepy too.
Very spooky. If you have not seen the trailer for this, Sandra
like
Oh.
Body possession.
Oh, yeah.
Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Old country ghost.
And Asian ghost stories are phenomenally fun. If you guys aren't familiar with, speaking of Chinese ghost story, Google that movie. That movie's fantastic. Like, and anything K-horror. Like, K-horror invented a whole cool genre. Like, everybody knows Ring and what was it, Jinro.
Ring is Japanese.
Japanese. I'm just talking about that whole the Asian horror like ghost story. Like there's a lot of movies out there that are really badass. The Host, that's K-horror. There's a lot of cool ones. Also coming out, The Outfit. I've seen too many trailers for this. I'm kind of sick of it. Director Graham Moore. It's about this tailor outwitting a dangerous group of mobsters in one night. You've probably seen the trailer. And then there's a Jujutsu Kaisen movie. If you're can we get the weeb emoji in the chat here?
Weeb.
It's a pretty good show. I've watched season 1. It's about Utada Okuso. He's a high schooler, gains control of an extremely powerful demon, that's a cursed spirit. And anyway, it's like a very long episode. We're starting to give me that look as what kind?
Weeb.
How about you show me your shirt here? There.
Well, dude, this initial D, that's totally different.
That's totally different.
Plus, my girlfriend gave it to me. It's a nice shirt. I like
it's
it.
totally weeb. And then also coming out from
Gave it to me.
director Christopher Lydon. It's Alice, which kind of looks like a little bit of M. Night Shyamalan meets blaxploitation films of the late 70s.
It's like The Village, but
meets Foxy Brown.
Yeah.
And so it's the story. It actually looks pretty interesting. The story is this African-American female. She's been held captive on this plantation, and it looks like very much plantation life, like southern Georgia, and picking cotton, and you're wearing the dress, and you live in the slaves' quarters, and it's like terrible and awful, and all of a sudden she's trying to escape, and then she hits a interstate highway, and she's like, wait a minute, and Common picks her up, and he's like a truck driver or whatever, and you're like, what? And she can't read and write, and it's like she was transplanted in a place and time, and this dude had just had this plantation set up in the middle of nowhere, and he was keeping slaves, like, it was really weird, and so she goes, and it's like 1976 when this really happens, and so she goes full on Foxy Brown or Coffee or whatever, that it just, you take Pam Grier, like any one of her early roles, and just put this in here, and it's just like, yo, this Afro coming at you with a pistol, and we're getting revenge, and it looks pretty fun. Honestly, I really want to kind of see this. It looks great because I'm a big fan of that genre of film. In early days of drive-in speaker box, I would always celebrate that genre when people were like, oh, you probably shouldn't do that, but now we've all learned, hey, it's actually a pretty awesome, important genre of movies that propelled a very big change in filmmaking at that time. Granted, some of the movies are not as tasteful as they could have been, but very important genre. But that's coming out as well. A lot of stuff.
McLean asked The Village. Yeah, sorry about the spoiler alert, man. It's like, sorry about that Shyamalan spoiler that everyone knows about.
Yeah, if you've never seen that. But that's what's coming out in theaters this week. All right, let's get into the movie review time. I'm gonna go through Belfast really quick.
Yeah, just an older movie.
Just because it's been out for a while. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards. That's why it's getting kind of a small re-release. It's in about 560 theaters nationwide. Written, directed, produced, Kenneth Branagh. A little bit of an autobiographical, not necessarily like strict autobiographical, but based on his experiences growing up in the late 1960s in Belfast, when all of that, sort of Catholic Protestant turmoil was going on in that part of the world. The movie's mostly in black and white, except for scenes of cinema and theater, which I thought were pretty cool because it's like the only time he really gets to escape and have these powerful images and powerful memories. It's just about his family. This movie is not a complicated movie. It's not a complex movie. It's not a feel-bad movie. It's not a feel-good movie. It's not necessarily trying to say, this group was right or this group was wrong. It's kind of a snapshot of not necessarily a coming-of-age story. It feels like it's gonna be, but it's just a snapshot of a period in time of which this character, Buddy, he's the youngest child in this family, just existing in a very unusual place in history where you know, the life was supposedly trying to be normal. You know, there wasn't any big world war, but there was a lot of just turmoil going on in these streets. There was people fighting each other. There was a lot of vandalism, and they had to like live this normal life with barricades and bunkers, but it wasn't such a global thing that they're, you know, were afraid of like air raids and stuff. It was just a very unusual time, and just kind of the delicacy, or the delicateness of just family relations in a time of strife. And it's just a really interesting character study. You know, you've got amazing performances from Judi Dench and Ciarán Hinds. You've got this up and comer Jude Hill. He plays the kid Buddy, and just steals the show, a la say the kid that was in Jojo Rabbit, where you just kind of want to keep watching this kid do whatever he wants to do. And thanks, Vince. And you know, it's not a long movie. It's that perfect runtime, about 89, 90 minutes. Just you just get sucked into this family, and you know, you see a lot of yourself. You know, you can empathize. Like, everybody has family drama. There's, you know, relationship drama between the mom and the dad, and there's the grandparents that live nearby, and just the whole, you know, money problems, and him having bullies and dealing with all this stuff. But also there is this ever-present sort of world problem that's always knocking at their door, living their life in constraint. And it's fueled by a really cool soundtrack, and it's kind of hard to describe because the movie's not really about anything. It's just about this family, you know, and in a way that just resonates with probably anybody that watches it. You know, I don't think this movie, just because it's like black and white and blah blah blah, is that an art film? I think anybody could sit and enjoy this film because it just has a lot of heart, you know. And Kenneth Branagh is a great storyteller. You know, he can do everything from up your own ass Shakespeare to, you know, Harry Potter and everything in between. But and then of course the Agatha Christie, there was a little Agatha Christie nod in this film as well. But just a cool, fun, feel good. I don't know if it's worth Best Picture or anything. I think it's definitely a great movie. It's up against all the movies, because that's how the Academy Award works now. They're like, well, we don't want anybody mad at us, so everybody's a nominee. And yeah, I think if you have a chance to see this movie, don't let the fact that it's in black and white make you feel like it's going to be super up its own ass. It's not. It's a fun watch, and it's the kind of movie I think more should be made more. So, yeah, I don't want to go too far into it because we got other movies to talk about. But there you go, Belfast. If you live here, you can check it out. It's in our AMC.
Word up.
What are we going to talk about now?
We got to talk about Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds.
Let's do it. Adam Project. Go.
Man, I don't know. Am I starting this off?
Yeah, man.
It's just, okay.
I've been talking a bunch. You go.
Yeah, it's just... Is there really anything to talk about with this movie? It's not anything special or new or exciting or fun.
Do you know how long this movie's been in development, though?
If you tell me.
2012.
Oh, I feel really bad.
Tom Cruise was supposed to star in it.
Oh, that would have been... Mm-hmm. That would have been... As Adam?
Yes.
Oh, that would have been good. It
was a long, long time ago.
I would have liked that. It felt like Zathura, if you've ever watched Zathura, the time travel thing, and it's like a kid's movie, but it's trying to put some sort of mature element out there, and the whole thing about it is cherish family relationships because you don't know when you're going to lose somebody and how it's going to affect you or them. So the whole thing is centered around the family relationships that Adam has and develops and loses in the past and the present and the future, the present being 2022, his future being 2050, his past being 2018. Mm-hmm.
And just straight up peeling every MCU celebrity from the sticker book that we all love.
Well, and and I mean, and it's nothing but like little Ryan Reynolds nods. So you get like the lines from his movies, you get scenes from his movies, stickers of like Deadpool on the chest and things like that. I mean, he was a producer on it, and a star, but.
And the director that he was just in with Free Guy. So
is that the one that did it?
Sean Levy did this one. So it checks out.
Yeah, I mean, it was it felt like a kid's movie the whole time, but then they would throw something out there that was like a maybe not for kids. But it was definitely like a kid movie. And
I mean, it was a big budget movie. I mean, you got some big names. You got
yeah,
Jennifer Garner,
big names,
you got Ryan Reynolds, Mark Ruffalo, you got Zoe Saldana, you've got I mean, you've got a lot of people. You've got
I don't know what the
Catherine
difference...
Keener. I couldn't stand her de-aging.
Oh, it looked so bad.
It looked so bad.
It looked so bad. But what's the difference between this and that movie about like the robot dog that the kids find, Zathura, or any of those like kids action movies where it's like, oh, it's up to the kid.
I'm responsible for saving space time. Yeah. Well, and my thing with this movie is it's fun. It's like as Johnny Dalton says over on YouTube, he says, "Is this a comfort food film?" I mean, kind of. It's a movie you could have running in the background if you're making dinner.
Simply a background movie, and the whole thing about time travel and stuff, they skip over every bit of the whole time travel and space, like near space travel and time travel. They're just like, eh.
Well, I like how fast like technology escalates from 2018 to 2050. Like that's not a long time, guys. It's like not even our life. That's not even half of our lifetimes. And you know they've got like super soldiers and laser jets that can maneuver somehow like Fast and the Furious cars and go invisible, and like it's pretty ridiculous in some of these senses. But you know it's a popcorn movie. It's an action movie. The thing that drives me nuts. Adam says the ending was interesting for a kid movie, which I don't want to spoil it.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's just the whole point of the movie is like, look at all the action, but here's the real message.
But there's some heart. There's catch that needs to be played and some feelings. But my deal is Ryan Reynolds. I like Ryan Reynolds. I think he's a funny guy. I've liked his career thus far, but he is becoming too much of an institution to where Ryan Reynolds being in a movie means something. Like you know what the movie's going to be like. It's going to just be this epic mouth, and it's going to be all these one-liners and all these just side-cracking jokey jokes and perfectly scripted and delivered like Razzies. And then it's like, okay, I can handle that to a point, but guess what are we going to do? Let's give him a second one. Let's have a mini Ryan Reynolds that also has a mouth and all this kind of stuff. And it's like that kind of wore on me a little bit. Like, one Ryan Reynolds is enough for me in a movie. I didn't need a miniature version of Ryan Reynolds also like forcibly trying to, because Ryan Reynolds is special in the sense that nobody can really deliver quirk like he can. He has his own special brand of it. That's why he's so famous. But now you have this other kid trying to emulate a Ryan Reynolds, and it just... Oh,
there's a behind the scenes where they're sitting in a car together and the kid is quoting the entire Deadpool 2 movie for like 5 minutes.
That sounds painful to watch.
Yeah, so he studied to be
and I
exactly
as
that.
Adam and Johnny say, I think it is possible for us to get too much of one flavor, and it can be argued about any huge big blockbuster star that becomes sort of typecast, and typecasting is dangerous because you lose your range. Like Ryan Reynolds actually can act. He's been in some good movies that aren't just this like fast talking,
but they don't make dollar bills.
They don't make dollar bills, and it drives me nuts. Like I can't remember what's the name of that movie where he's is it Buried Alive or whatever,
where he's
literally buried alive. I don't know. I can't remember the name of that movie, and I'm not going to look it up. But, there's a lot of movies where he's not just being like, hey, yo, here's a joke, and boy, you smell, and oh, did you think about that before you left the house? And blah, 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 and just doing all this word vomit. Buried. Thank you, Vince. He's not doing all of this just word vomit. He's cast in the new Dragon's Lair movie, the new Clue movie, and you can already tell where that's going to go. Deadpool 3, it's just going to be Deadpool in Dragon's Lair and Clue. Like,
what? Clue? What?
There's going to be a new Clue movie.
Is it going to be like the old one? Who's going to be Tim Curry?
Probably Ryan Reynolds. Because, Ryan Reynolds is a different flavor of... who can talk fast and crass and saucy like Tim Curry? Well, it's going to be Ryan Reynolds. He's probably going to be the butler. It makes sense. But yeah, that was kind of my biggest problem with this movie is I could have done with a lot less Ryan Reynolds one-lining comedy. But
I didn't like the part where they tried to give explanations to the time travel, but didn't give him at all. So they're like, the dad, physics, math.
Yeah. Mark Ruffalo, you remember him as a brilliant scientist in the MCU that's also the Hulk, so we're going to inject that exact same character into here.
And then every time they're just like, what if it got more intense for no reason? They're like, oh, it's in a dodecahedron spherical diamond hard drive thing that's impenetrable in this super underground safe base water thing. And you're like, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, you can.
Don't get me started on the end of this movie where they're like, this movie's all about like, yo, physics. If you understood physics, you'd understand. So we're not going to explain physics to you. And it's like, oh, we're in a whole room full of magnetism, and the person like that's holding a gun full of metal somehow can hold this gun full of metal until this last moment where, oh, I guess it just decides that realizes it's magnetic at the last perfect moment. Like, get out of here with that shit. Follow the rules of the world of which you create. Like, just if you're going to be like, physics, the answer was physics the whole time. And it's like, well, if the answer was physics the whole time, her fingers would have ripped off because she couldn't have held onto a thing full of metal. And, grrr.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think it was as fun as you thought it was. That's kind of how I was throughout the whole movie. I was
just
like,
grrr.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad. I didn't think it was that bad. I was also making food, and I was cooking dinner and watching it. And I'm a guy that'll pause. Like, I want to see everything. But this one, I was like, I'm pretty sure I can.
I almost did.
Up and,
at like the lid of the trunk, I was like, oh, what all stickers were on there? I saw the Deadpool and something else. I almost like rewound and paused it to look at them. I was like, I don't care. No. I honestly don't care.
Doesn't matter.
There was a lot of that movie where I'm like, wait, what? And then I go, I don't care. I'm like. Yeah, it was less interesting than any other spaceman time travel movie thing I've ever watched.
Just watch Edge of Tomorrow. Like, that's a good one.
Yeah,
with Tom Cruise.
If it would have had Tom Cruise, that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
But anyway,
that's the better clone movie,
time loop movie. Yeah. So anyway, Adam Project, it's the new Netflix film. This movie could have been in theaters, and I think it probably would have made quite a bit of money in theaters, honestly. With a little bit of exception of that CGI de-aging from Catherine Keener. Like, that was just very very bad to watch. But anyway, you can check it out in Belfast. Again, you can check that out if it's playing near you. And then that's pretty much our show. I don't even think we have a whole lot of time to go through the box office. I'll tell you, Batman and Uncharted were number 1 and number 2, making more money. Batman made another $66.5 million in its second week in release, so $239 million at the box office. So
and K-pop, the movie,
BTS,
came in at number
man,
3. What?
BTS bringing in $6.8 million. It's only in 800 theaters, but a pretty good average per theater. And
I would hate to be working in those theaters, just hearing
BTS
like
just
young girls
blasting.
Screaming.
Everybody likes BTS.
It's so weird.
It is weird, but I'm here for it. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. That's going to be it for us. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. If you want to catch us on that Facebook, that Twitch, or that YouTube to check it out live and participate in the live chat over here, or just like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, whatever. You do that thing. And any parting words before I click like the ending music and do all that stuff?
No, that's it for me, man.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next week. Take care. I'm your host, Bo, the Boom Operator.
I'm Slick Doggy the Grip.
We'll be back next week. Later, y'all.